The rain was relentless that November morning, hammering the roof of my little cottage in Willow Creek, a quiet coastal town where the sea whispered secrets to anyone who'd listen. I stood at the kitchen window, watching the waves churn under a bruised sky, my hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea gone cold. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, had lived through enough storms to know this one wasn't just weather. Something heavier was coming. My children, Clara, Nathan, and Sophie, had called the night before, their voices tight with that rehearsed kindness that always preceded bad news. "We're coming over tomorrow, Mama," Clara had said, her tone syrupy. "Just to check in, maybe sort through some things." Sort through what? I'd wondered, but I didn't ask. I'd raised them to speak their minds, hadn't I? Instead, I'd murmured, "That sounds nice," and hung up, my stomach twisting like it used to when their father, Thomas, would come home late, reeking of whiskey and regret. The cottage was my sanctuary, built with Thomas's life insurance after his heart gave out a decade ago. Every inch of it, oak table, mismatched chairs, the quilt draped over the sofa, was a piece of me. I'd painted the walls a soft lavender, hung photos of the kids when they were small, their gap-toothed smiles frozen in time. That morning, I'd set out a tray of scones and 4 cups of coffee, the steam curling like a promise of warmth. I wore my favorite cardigan, sage green, the one Thomas said made my eyes look like sea glass. Foolish, maybe, but I wanted to look like their mother, not some frail thing to be pitied. The door opened with a gust of wet air, and Clara marched in first, her heels clicking like a metronome. Nathan followed, eyes glued to his phone, and Sophie lingered last, clutching a folder that made my chest tighten. "Mama," Clara began, sitting across from me, her smile as stiff as her blazer. "We've been talking." Those words landed like a stone in my gut. They always did when someone was about to upend your life. She spoke in that careful, patronizing tone you'd use with a child caught stealing cookies. "We found a wonderful place for you, Mama. Seaside Meadows, just outside town. It's like a resort, gardens, activities, even a book club." I blinked, the words not quite sinking in. "A place for me? I'm not going anywhere. This is my home." Nathan finally looked up, his jaw tight. "Mama, you've been forgetting things. The stove left on, the keys in the fridge. We're worried about you." "Forgetting things?" My voice rose, sharp enough to cut through the rain's drone. "I'm not senile, Nathan. I'm tired sometimes, that's all." I turned to Sophie, who hadn't spoken, her eyes fixed on the folder. "Sophie, what's this about?" She hesitated, then slid the folder across the table. "It's just paperwork, Mama, to make things easier." I opened it, my hands trembling. Power of attorney forms, medical directives, and a brochure for Seaside Meadows, its glossy pages promising dignified senior living. My signature was on the forms, scrawled in a moment of exhaustion months ago when Clara had brought them over after a sleepless night. I'd trusted her, my eldest, the one who used to cling to my skirts during thunderstorms. Now that trust felt like a blade. "You signed this, Mama," Clara said softly, as if that made it right. "It's for your safety." "Safety?" I stood, my chair scraping the floor. "This is my home. I raised you here, fed you, loved you. And now you're what? Shipping me off to free up the house." The silence was deafening, broken only by the rain. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. Sophie stared at her hands. Clara's face hardened. "We're doing what's best. You'll see." Within hours, my life was packed into a single suitcase. They didn't let me choose what to take. No time, they said. Clara drove, Nathan beside her, texting. Sophie sat with me in the back, but her gaze stayed on the window, avoiding mine. The cottage faded behind us, its lavender walls swallowed by the storm. Seaside Meadows was a squat, beige building tucked between a strip mall and a highway. No gardens, just gravel and a faded sign. A nurse with a clipboard greeted us, her smile too bright, like she was selling something no one wanted. My children left after quick hugs, promising to visit soon. I stood in my new room, bare walls, a twin bed, the faint smell of bleach, and felt my heart crack. That first night, I didn't cry. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the only photo I'd managed to grab. Me and Thomas on our honeymoon, laughing on a pier, the sea behind us endless and blue. They hadn't just taken my home. They'd taken my dignity, my story, my right to be Margaret Elaine Harper, mother, widow, survivor. But as I stared at that photo, something flickered inside me, not defeat but defiance. They thought they'd erase me. They were wrong. The next morning, I met Evelyn. She was in the dining hall, a wiry woman with silver curls and a laugh that could shake the dust off the ceiling. She was playing cards with a nurse, her voice booming. "You call that a bluff? I've seen better from my cat." She caught my eye and winked. "New blood, huh? You've got that, just got stabbed in the back. Look." I smiled, the first real one in days. Something like that. She waved me over. "Sit. Tell me who did you dirty." And so I did. Haltingly at first, then all at once, the words spilling like water from a broken dam. Evelyn listened, her eyes sharp, not with pity but with understanding. Over the next few days, I met the others. Lila, a former baker with a soft voice and a mind like a steel trap, and Beatrice, a retired accountant who'd once balanced books for a senator. They called themselves the Silver Rebels, a trio of women who'd been discarded but refused to fade. One night, over lukewarm tea in the lounge, I told them the whole story. Clara's lies, Nathan's indifference, Sophie's silence, the house I'd poured my soul into. Beatrice leaned forward, her glasses glinting. "Did you sign over the deed?" I shook my head. "No, it's still in my name. I checked the papers they gave me." Evelyn let out a low whistle. "Well, damn, Margaret. You're sitting on a gold mine and a ticking bomb." Lila's eyes sparkled. "What if you sold it? Took the money and ran?" The idea hit me like a wave, cold and exhilarating. Sell the cottage? The thought was unthinkable until it wasn't. They'd taken my home to claim it for themselves, probably to flip it for profit in Willow Creek's booming market. But what if I beat them to it? What if I took back my life? The plan began to form, fragile but fierce, like a spark in dry grass. I wasn't just going to survive this betrayal. I was going to rewrite the ending. And with Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice by my side, I felt the stirrings of something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The fluorescent lights of seaside meadows buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the common room where I sat with Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice. It was late, past the hour when most residents shuffled to their rooms, but we lingered, our voices low, conspiratorial. The air smelled of instant coffee and the faint lavender of Lila's hand cream, a small defiance against the antiseptic scent that clung to everything here. My hands, still callous from years of gardening, clutched a folded piece of paper, the deed to my cottage, tucked inside a worn journal I'd hidden beneath my mattress. It was my lifeline, my proof that I still had something they couldn't take. Evelyn leaned forward, her silver curls catching the light. "So, Margaret, you're serious about this? Selling the house out from under them?" I nodded, my heart thudding. "They didn't just take my home, Evelyn. They took my choice. I want it back." Beatrice adjusted her glasses, her accountant's mind already working. "Legally, it's yours. The power of attorney they tricked you into signing covers medical and financial decisions, but the deed's untouched. They'd need your signature to sell, and you haven't given it." "Yet," Lila added, her soft voice carrying a surprising edge. "They might try to forge it. I've seen it happen. Families get greedy, think no one's watching." The thought made my stomach lurch. Clara's face flashed in my mind, her tight smile, the way she'd avoided my eyes when she slid those papers across the table. Had she planned this all along? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the women around me. They weren't just friends. They were my anchors, my co-conspirators in a rebellion I hadn't known I was capable of. "We need a plan," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "If I'm going to sell the cottage, it has to be fast before they realize what's happening." Evelyn grinned, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Fast and quiet, like sneaking out of church before the collection plate comes around." Beatrice pulled a notepad from her cardigan pocket, her pen scratching as she listed steps. "First, we confirm the deed status, make sure there's no lien or secondary claim. Then we find a buyer. Willow Creek's hot right now. Waterfront cottages like yours go quick. After that, we secure the funds in a new account, one they can't touch. Lila raised a hand, her baker's fingers dusted with imaginary flour. And we need a way to do this without the staff noticing. They're nice enough, but they gossip. One wrong word, and Clara's on your doorstep with a lawyer. The weight of it settled over me. Not just the logistics, but the betrayal. My children, the ones I'd rocked through fevers, taught to ride bikes, cheered at graduations, had reduced me to a problem to be solved. But I wasn't done yet. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and I'd survived worse than this. The next morning, I found a small miracle in my room. Tucked inside my journal alongside the deed was a business card I'd forgotten about. Jacob Wells, a real estate agent I'd met years ago at a town fair. Thomas and I had considered selling the cottage back then, before his diagnosis, but we'd decided against it. Jacob's card was creased, the ink faded, but his number was still legible. It felt like a sign. I showed it to the Silver Rebels at breakfast, keeping my voice low as a nurse passed with a tray of oatmeal. Think he's still in business? Evelyn snatched the card, squinting. Only one way to find out. But we can't call from here. The front desk logs every outgoing call. Beatrice tapped her chin. The community center downtown has public phones. We can sign up for the weekly shopping trip, slip away while the others are at the grocery store. Lila's eyes widened. You're suggesting we sneak out? Not sneak, Evelyn corrected, grinning. Strategize. The shopping trip was 2 days away, which gave us time to prepare. Beatrice used the facility's ancient computer to search property records online, confirming the deed was still in my name, free of liens. Lila, with her knack for details, sketched a timeline. List the house, find a buyer, close the sale, and move the money before Clara's next check-in call. Evelyn, ever the wild card, insisted we needed an escape plan. Once they find out, they'll come looking. Where do you want to go, Margaret? I hadn't thought that far. The idea of leaving Willow Creek, the only home I'd ever known, felt like tearing out a piece of my soul. But staying wasn't an option either, not in this beige cage, not with my children circling like vultures. Somewhere warm, I said finally, somewhere with a view of the sea, where I can breathe. Greece, Lila said dreamily. Santorini, with those white houses and blue domes. I saw it in a magazine once. Evelyn snorted. You and your romance novels. But why not? Let's dream big. The shopping trip arrived, and we boarded the facility's van, our hearts pounding like schoolgirls cutting class. At the community center, while the others browsed canned goods, we slipped into a quiet corner with a payphone. My fingers shook as I dialed Jacob's number, half expecting a disconnected tone. But he answered, his voice warm, familiar. Margaret Harper? My God, it's been years. How's that cottage treating you? I swallowed hard. It's not mine for much longer, Jacob. I need to sell it. Fast. He didn't ask questions, bless him. He agreed to meet discreetly, promising to list the house under a shell company to keep my name off public records. Cash buyers only, he said. I've got a few investors who'd snap up a place like yours in a heartbeat. When I hung up, Evelyn clapped me on the back. That's my girl. Now let's get back before they send a search party. The next week was a blur of secrecy. Jacob worked quickly, sending updates through Beatrice's Gmail account, which she'd set up on the community computer. The cottage was listed at a fair price, high enough to secure my future, but low enough to attract immediate offers. By Friday, we had a buyer, a retired couple from Seattle, looking for a coastal retreat. They offered full price, no contingencies, with a closing date in 10 days. Beatrice handled the legal side, contacting a lawyer friend, Miriam Tate, who'd retired but still took pro bono cases for worthy causes. Miriam confirmed the sale was airtight, the funds would transfer to a new account in my name, and my children's power of attorney couldn't touch it. You're playing a dangerous game, Margaret, she warned over the phone. But I admire your guts. Clara called that same day, her voice dripping with false concern. How's the place, Mama? Settling in. I played along, my tone light, grateful, while my pulse raced. Oh, it's fine, dear. Just getting used to things. I hung up, my hands shaking, and Evelyn handed me a cup of tea. You're a natural, Margaret. Oscar-worthy. The hardest part was the waiting. Every creak of the facility's doors, Every nurse's glance felt like a threat. I kept the deed hidden, checking it nightly like a talisman. Lila taught me to breathe deeply, to focus on the future. Santorini, the sea, a life reclaimed. Beatrice drilled me on the plan. Sign the papers, wire the money, pack light. Evelyn, ever practical, bribed a young aide with a batch of Lila's cookies to skip my room check on the night we'd leave. That night came, a Friday, when the staff was distracted by a talent show in the rec room. I packed a small duffel, passport, photo of Thomas, a few clothes, and the deed. The silver rebels gathered in my room, their faces lit with a mix of fear and excitement. "You ready?" Evelyn whispered. I looked at them, these women who'd become my family in a matter of weeks. More than I've ever been. We slipped out through a side door, the rain our cover, and piled into an Uber Evelyn had booked under her name. The driver, a bored college kid, didn't ask questions. As we pulled away from Seaside Meadows, I left a note on my pillow. "Don't look for me. I'm taking back what you stole." The words felt like a vow. The airport was a blur of fluorescent lights and chatter. I clutched my ticket. Athens, first stop. Lila held my hand. Beatrice checked our bags, and Evelyn scanned the crowd like a hawk. As the plane lifted off, Willow Creek shrinking below, I didn't cry. I smiled. They'd taken my home, but they'd given me something else, freedom. And I was going to use it to burn brighter than they'd ever imagined. The plane touched down in Athens just as the sun painted the sky in hues of peach and gold, a dawn so vivid it felt like the world was welcoming us. My legs ached from the long flight. My back protested every movement, but my heart was soaring. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, was stepping onto foreign soil for the first time, a fugitive of my own making, flanked by the Silver Rebels, Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice. We were no longer just survivors of betrayal. We were adventurers, rewriting our story with every step. The air in Athens smelled of olive oil, dust, and something sweet, maybe jasmine, maybe possibility. We checked into a modest guest house in Plaka, its whitewashed walls draped with bougainvillea, its rooms simple but alive with color. The owner, a woman named Eleni with laugh lines deep as canyons, didn't blink at four gray-haired Americans with light luggage and eyes full of secrets. "Welcome," she said, handing us keys and a plate of honey-drizzled pastries. "You look like you've come to find something." I smiled, biting into a pastry, the sweetness exploding on my tongue. "Maybe we have." That first day, we wandered the city like children let loose in a fairy tale. Evelyn haggled with a vendor for a silk scarf she didn't need, her laughter echoing through the market. Lila bought a tiny ceramic owl, whispering that it reminded her of her late husband's stories about Athena. Beatrice, ever practical, mapped our route to the Acropolis, her guidebook already dog-eared. And I stood at the base of the Parthenon, the ancient stones warm under my palms, and felt a quiet power settle in my bones. I wasn't just Margaret, the discarded mother. I was a woman who'd crossed an ocean to reclaim herself. But freedom, I learned, carries shadows. On our second night, I made the mistake of checking my email. The guest house had spotty Wi-Fi, but it was enough to load a string of messages from Clara. The subject lines were a crescendo of panic. "Mama, where are you? What did you do? Call me now." I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I could hear her voice, sharp, accusing, the same tone she'd used when she told me Seaside Meadows was for my own good. The house was sold, the money was mine, and I was gone. That was enough. Lila found me on the guest house balcony, my laptop glowing in the dark, a glass of ouzo untouched beside me. "You okay, Margaret?" she asked, her soft voice cutting through the cicadas' hum. "I don't feel guilty," I said, surprising myself. "I thought I would, but I don't." She sat beside me, her knee brushing mine. "They made their choices. You're just making yours." The next morning, we took a ferry to Santorini, the island Lila had dreamed of. The sea was a mirror of turquoise, the cliffs rising like white sentinels against the sky. Our rented villa clung to the caldera's edge, its blue-domed roof matching the Aegean below. Evelyn declared it paradise with a side of rebellion, and we laughed, unpacking our meager belongings, our spirits as light as the sea breeze. Santorini was a revelation. We walked cobblestone paths, ate tomatoes so ripe they burst with flavor, and sipped wine that tasted like sunlight. Evelyn flirted shamelessly with a cafe owner named Nikos, who brought us free baklava and stories of his youth as a fisherman. Lila sketched the island's curves in a notebook, her fingers smudged with charcoal. Beatrice, ever the scholar, dragged us to archaeological sites, her voice alive with facts about Minoan ruins. And I let the island wash over me, its beauty a balm for wounds I hadn't named. One evening, as we sat on the villa's terrace watching the sunset ignite the sky, I found something that changed everything. I was unpacking my duffel, searching for a lost earring, when my fingers brushed a hidden pocket. Inside was a small envelope, yellowed with age, sealed with a wax stamp. My name was written on it in Thomas's handwriting, the sight of it stealing my breath. I waited until the others were asleep, then sat by the window, the moon casting silver across the room. With trembling hands, I broke the competitive seal. Inside were 3 letters, each dated years before Thomas's death. The first began, "My dearest Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're hurting. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from what's coming." My eyes burned as I read. Thomas had seen it, the greed, the manipulation, the way Clara and Nathan had started to look at the cottage not as a home, but as an asset. He'd overheard Nathan talking to a realtor friend about future plans for the property, even when I was healthy, vibrant. Sophie, he wrote, was different, quiet, conflicted, but too young to stand up to her siblings. "They think you're weak, Maggie," he wrote in the final letter, dated just weeks before his heart failed. "But you're the strongest person I know. If they try to bury you, fight back. Live the life we dreamed of, not the one they'll allow." I clutched the letters to my chest, tears falling silently. He'd known. Even then, he'd known. The pain was a fire, but so was the love, burning through the years to find me here in this moment. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the terrace, the sea whispering below, and made a decision. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who'd been silenced, discarded, betrayed by the one she loved. At breakfast, I showed the letters to the Silver Rebels. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Those kids of yours, they didn't just betray you. They planned it." Lila touched my hand. "What do you want to do, Margaret?" I took a breath, the sea air filling my lungs. "I want to tell my story. Not for revenge, but for the others. The women like us, stuck in places like seaside meadows, thinking it's over." Beatrice nodded, her accountant's mind already ticking. "We go public. A blog, maybe, or a podcast. Something that reaches people." Evelyn grinned. "Hell, let's make it a book. Margaret Harper's Great Escape." We laughed, but the idea took root. Back in Athens, we contacted Miriam, the lawyer who'd helped with the sale. She connected us with a journalist, Anna Voss, who ran a small online magazine focused on women's stories. Anna was intrigued, promising to meet us in Florence, our next stop. "This isn't just your story, Margaret," she said over a crackling phone line. "It's a movement." We boarded a plane to Florence, the letters tucked safely in my bag, my resolve hardening with every mile. The city greeted us with golden light, its streets alive with the scent of leather and espresso. We rented a small apartment near the Arno River, its walls peeling but warm, like it had held 1,000 dreams before ours. We walked to the Duomo, its dome a marvel of faith and engineering, and I stood beneath it, feeling small but not diminished. I was part of something bigger now. But the past wasn't done with me. On our 4th day in Florence, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of my cottage, its lavender walls repainted a stark white, the garden I'd tended for decades ripped out, replaced with gravel. Below it, a single line. "I'm so sorry, Grandma." It was from Lily, Sophie's daughter, my youngest granddaughter. My heart stuttered. Lily was only 15, a quiet girl who'd loved my stories about the sea. I hadn't seen her since before Seaside Meadows, when Sophie stopped bringing her by. I showed the text to the others. Evelyn frowned. Could be a trap. Clara might have put her up to it. But Lila shook her head. "She's a child, Evelyn. Look at her words, she's hurting. Beatrice studied the photo. They didn't just sell your home, Margaret. They erased it. The anger was a tide, pulling me under, but I fought it back. Lily's message was a crack in the wall my children had built around me. I typed a reply, my fingers trembling. Thank you for telling me, sweetheart. I need time. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. That night, as Florence hummed outside our window, I dreamed of the cottage, not as it was now, but as it had been, filled with laughter, love, and the scent of my roses. When I woke, I knew what I had to do. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was Lily's, too, and every woman who'd ever been told her time was up. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and I was just getting started. Florence was a city of echoes, church bells ringing through narrow streets, the Arno River murmuring secrets, the chatter of tourists blending with the clink of espresso cups. It was here, in a sunlit cafe overlooking the Ponte Vecchio, that I met Anna Voss, the journalist who'd promised to amplify my story. She was younger than I'd expected, with sharp green eyes and a notebook already open on the table, but her warmth disarmed me. Margaret, she said, shaking my hand, you're not what I pictured when Miriam described a woman who sold her house and vanished. I laughed, the sound surprising me. What did you picture? Someone broken, she said plainly. But you're not. You're fire. The Silver Rebels, Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice, sat at a nearby table, sipping cappuccinos and pretending to read a guidebook, though I caught Evelyn's hawk-like glance every few minutes. They'd insisted on coming, my guardians in this new chapter. I was grateful, not just for their presence, but for the courage they'd helped me unearth. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, was no longer hiding. I was ready to speak. Anna set up a small recorder, her questions gentle but piercing. Start at the beginning, Margaret. Tell me about the day they took you away. So I did. I told her about the rain-soaked morning in Willow Creek, the scones I'd baked, the sage-green cardigan I'd worn to feel like their mother. I told her about Clara's patronizing tone, Nathan's indifference, Sophie's silence, and the power of attorney I'd signed in a fog of trust. I described the beige walls of Seaside Meadows, the single suitcase, the photo of Thomas I'd clung to like a lifeline. My voice cracked when I spoke of the cottage, my lavender sanctuary, now whitewashed and gutted, but I didn't stop. I told her about the Silver Rebels, the deed, the sale, and the letters from Thomas that had lit a fire in my soul. Anna listened, her pen scratching, her eyes never leaving mine. When I finished, she leaned back, exhaling. Margaret, this isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of resurrection. How many women are out there right now, in nursing homes or their own homes, feeling like they're done? Your story could wake them up. Her words settled over me like a mantle. I'd wanted to tell my story for myself, for Lily, for the women like me. But Anna saw something bigger, a movement, a call to arms for the forgotten. What do you want to do with it? I asked. A podcast first, she said, her voice alive with purpose. My platform reaches thousands, mostly women over 50. Then, if you're willing, a written piece for the magazine. Maybe even a book down the line. But we start with your voice. I glanced at the Silver Rebels. Evelyn gave a subtle nod. Lila smiled softly, and Beatrice adjusted her glasses, her accountant's mind already calculating the impact. Let's do it, I said. The recording took 2 days, Anna guiding me through retellings, coaxing out details I'd buried. The way Clara's heels had echoed like a judge's gavel, the smell of bleach in my Seaside Meadows room, the weight of Thomas's letters in my hands. When we finished, Anna hugged me, her embrace fierce. You're going to change lives, Margaret. We left Florence for Venice, the podcast set to air in a week. The city of canals was a dream of water and light, its bridges arching like promises. We stayed in a small palazzo, its walls adorned with faded frescoes, and spent our days wandering, gondolas gliding beside us. Evelyn bought a carnival mask, declaring it her rebel disguise. Lila sketched the Rialto Bridge, her pencil capturing its grace. Beatrice read us history from her guidebook, her voice steady as we stood in St. Mark's Square. And I let Venice teach me to flow, to move with the current, not against it. But the past was a stubborn shadow. On our third night, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Lily. Grandma, I heard the podcast. I'm so sorry. I confronted Mom. She's furious, but I don't care. Can we talk? Please? My heart twisted. Lily's words felt raw, real, but doubt gnawed at me. Was this genuine, or another trap set by Clara? I showed the message to the others over dinner, the canal outside our window reflecting candlelight. Evelyn snorted. She's 15. Kids that age don't fake tears like that. But be careful, Margaret. Lila's eyes were soft. She's reaching out. That takes courage, especially if Sophie's against her. Beatrice tapped her fork against her plate. If you respond, keep it neutral. Meet on your terms, not theirs. I typed a reply, my fingers hesitant. Lily, I'm glad you reached out. I need time, but I'll let you know when I'm ready. Stay safe. I hit send, my chest tight with hope and fear. The podcast aired 2 days later, and the world shifted. Anna sent us a link, and we huddled around Beatrice's laptop in our palazzo, the sound of my voice filling the room. Hearing myself, steady, unbroken, alive, was surreal. By morning, Anna emailed. Over 50,000 downloads in 12 hours. You've struck a nerve, Margaret. Messages flooded her inbox. Women sharing stories of being coerced into care homes, manipulated by family, stripped of agency. Daughters wrote of regret, sons of shame. I was no longer just Margaret Harper. I was a beacon for the silenced. Clara's response came swiftly, a voicemail dripping with venom. How dare you air our family's business? You're selfish, Mama, ruining our lives. Nathan texted, this is low even for you. Sophie was silent, but I imagine her reading the comments, her quiet guilt a weight she couldn't shake. I deleted Clara's message, ignored Nathan's text. Their anger was theirs to carry, not mine. But Lily emailed again, her words a lifeline. Grandma, I'm staying with Aunt Rachel now. Mom and I fought. She said you're lying, but I believe you. I want to see you. Please. Aunt Rachel was Sophie's sister-in-law, a kind woman who'd always stayed out of family drama. Lily's defection felt like a crack in the wall, but I wasn't ready to trust fully. I replied, I'm glad you're safe, sweetheart. Let's talk soon, somewhere neutral. I'll choose the place. We chose Lisbon next. Its hills and trams a new canvas for our adventure. The city smelled of salt and pastries, its tiled buildings glowing in the sun. We danced in a fado bar, Evelyn leading us in a clumsy waltz, and laughed until our sides ached. But beneath the joy, I felt a shift. My story was no longer just a rebellion. It was a responsibility. Women were listening, waiting for me to show them the way. One night, as we sat on a rooftop terrace, the Tagus River sparkling below, I told the Silver Rebels about Lily's latest message. She wants to meet, I said. I'm thinking Charleston, South Carolina. It's far from Willow Creek, but close enough for her to travel. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You sure about this, Margaret? She's still their blood. Lila squeezed my hand. She's your blood too. And she's choosing you. Beatrice nodded. Set ground rules. Public place, no surprises. We'll be there, just in case. I booked a flight to Charleston, my heart a tangle of hope and caution. Lily was a spark, but sparks could ignite fires or burn out. As we boarded the plane, I tucked Thomas's letters into my bag. Their weight a reminder. I was strong enough for this. In Charleston, I'd face my granddaughter, my past, and the future I was building. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and my story was only beginning to unfold. Charleston greeted us with a soft September breeze, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and salt marsh. The city's charm, cobblestone streets, pastel houses, oak trees draped in Spanish moss, felt like a balm after the whirlwind of Europe. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, was no stranger to new beginnings, but this one carried a weight unlike any other. I was here to meet Lily, my granddaughter, the one piece of my family that hadn't turned its back on me. The Silver Rebels, Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice, were with me, their presence a steady anchor as we checked into a small inn near the Battery, its porch overlooking the harbor. Lily's emails had grown more frequent, her words raw and earnest. She'd left her mother, Sophie, and was living with her Aunt Rachel in Raleigh, a 4-hour drive from Charleston. I believe you, Grandma, she'd written. I found your podcast and I cried for hours. I want to know you again. Her sincerity pierced me, but doubt lingered. Was she truly breaking free? Or was this a ploy orchestrated by Clara to drag me back into their web? I'd chosen Charleston for its neutrality, far enough from Willow Creek to feel safe, close enough for Lily to reach. The meeting was set for tomorrow in a public park with the Silver Rebels nearby, ready to intervene if needed. That night, we sat on the inn's porch, the harbor lights flickering like stars on the water. Evelyn sipped a mint julep, her eyes scanning the street. You nervous, Margaret? Terrified, I admitted, my hand smoothing the skirt of my navy dress, the one I'd worn dancing in Lisbon. She's my granddaughter, but she's Sophie's daughter. I don't know what to expect. Lila, sketching the harbor in her notebook, looked up. She's reaching out because she sees you, Margaret. Not the story Clara told her, but you. Beatrice, ever practical, adjusted her glasses. Just keep your guard up. She's young, impressionable. If Clara's coaching her, we'll know in 10 seconds. I nodded, clutching the locket I wore, a gift from Thomas, holding a tiny photo of Lily as a toddler, her curls wild, her smile bright. I'd loved her fiercely then, and that love hadn't faded, only grown tangled with pain. Tomorrow, I'd see if it could bloom again. The park was alive with families, joggers, and tourists when we arrived at noon. I sat on a bench beneath a live oak, its branches heavy with moss, my heart pounding. Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice lingered at a nearby cafe, close enough to watch, far enough to give us space. I'd told Lily to wear something red, a scarf, a hat, so I'd spot her easily. At 12:05, I saw her, a slim figure in a red sweater, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes searching the crowd. She looked so much like Sophie at that age, but there was something else, a fragility, a fire, that was all her own. Grandma. Her voice was small, trembling as she approached. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands twisting together. Lily, I said, standing, my voice catching. You're here. She nodded, tears spilling over. I'm so sorry, Grandma, for everything. I didn't know, I didn't understand until I heard your story. I gestured to the bench, and we sat, the space between us heavy with years and secrets. Tell me, I said gently, what happened? She took a shaky breath. I found your podcast by accident on Aunt Rachel's phone. I listened to it all night, and I saw Mom differently. She always said you were confused, that you needed help, but you weren't. You were just you. Her voice broke. I went through her desk, found emails between her and Uncle Nathan about selling the cottage, even before they took you to that place. They planned it, Grandma. I confronted her and she hit me. My breath caught, anger flaring. She hit you. Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. She said I was betraying the family, that you were the one who abandoned us. But I couldn't stay. Aunt Rachel took me in. She believes you too. I reached for her hand, her fingers cold but gripping mine tightly. You're so brave, sweetheart. Braver than I was at your age. She shook her head. I'm not. I should have seen it sooner. I should have called you. You're here now, I said, my voice steady despite the tears burning my eyes. That's what matters. We talked for hours, the park emptying around us. She told me about school, her love of poetry, the way she kept my old gardening gloves hidden in her room as a reminder of our afternoons together. I told her about Santorini, the Silver Rebels, Thomas's letters. When I mentioned the cottage, its lavender walls erased, its garden gone, she cried again, her shoulders shaking. I went there last week, she whispered. It's not your home anymore. It's empty. The word stung. But they also freed something in me. The cottage was gone, but I wasn't. I was here, alive, with a granddaughter who'd chosen truth over loyalty to a lie. It's okay, I told her. Home isn't a place anymore. It's us right now. As the sun dipped low, Evelyn signaled from the cafe, a reminder to wrap up. I hugged Lily, her arms tight around me, her tears soaking my shoulder. Can I see you again? She asked, pulling back, her eyes searching mine. Yes, I said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. But on our terms. I'll call you, sweetheart. Stay with Rachel. Stay safe. She nodded, clutching the red sweater like a shield. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, I said, the words a vow. That night, back at the inn, I told the Silver Rebels everything. Evelyn wiped a tear, muttering, "Damn kids got guts." Lila smiled, her sketchbook open to a new page, a girl in a red sweater under an oak. Beatrice, practical as ever, said she's an ally now, but keep her at arm's length until we're sure. The reunion with Lily was a spark, but it ignited something bigger. Anna's podcast had exploded, 200,000 downloads, articles in national outlets, emails from women across the country. I was no longer just a woman who'd escaped. I was a symbol of defiance, of refusing to be erased. But with that came pressure. Clara left another voicemail, her voice shaking with rage. "You're tearing our family apart, Mama. Stop this now." Nathan emailed, threatening legal action for defamation. Sophie remained silent, her absence a wound that hadn't healed. But Lily's courage changed me. Over dinner, as we shared shrimp and grits in a Charleston restaurant, I told the Silver Rebels my new plan. I want to start something, a foundation maybe, a place for women like us, women who've been pushed aside to find their voice, their strength. Evelyn raised her glass. To Margaret's revolution. Lila's eyes shone. We could call it the Elaine Harper Foundation, after your middle name. A beacon of light. Beatrice scribbled notes. We'll need funding, a location, legal structure. But with the podcast momentum, we could crowdfund it. The idea took root, fierce and unyielding. We spent the next week in Charleston, planning. Lily joined us for a day, her poetry notebook in hand, her ideas bold. Support groups, legal aid, safe houses for women displaced by family betrayal. She was my shadow, my hope, a reminder that family wasn't just blood, but choice. As we boarded a flight to Savannah, our next stop, chosen for its quiet beauty, I felt a shift. The weight of Clara's anger, Nathan's threats, Sophie's silence, was still there, but it was lighter. Lily's red sweater, Thomas's letters, the Silver Rebels' laughter, they were my armor. In Savannah, we'd meet with Anna again, plan the foundation's launch, and build something that would outlast me. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for every woman who'd been told her story was over. Savannah unfolded like a love letter to resilience. Its squares shaded by ancient oaks, its air heavy with the scent of jasmine and history. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, felt the city's pulse sync with my own, a rhythm of survival, of rising from ashes. The Silver Rebels, Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice, and I had settled into a rented townhouse near Forsyth Park, its wide porch perfect for late-night talks and planning sessions. Lily's reunion in Charleston had lit a fire in me, and the idea of the Elaine Harper Foundation was no longer a dream, but a mission, one we were determined to bring to life. Anna Voss arrived 2 days after we did, her laptop and recorder in tow, her energy crackling like a storm about to break. We met in a cafe on Bull Street, its walls lined with local art, the air thick with the aroma of pecan pie. "Margaret," she said, sliding into a booth, "your podcast is a phenomenon. 500,000 downloads, and it's climbing. Women are calling you their hero." I shifted, uncomfortable with the word. "I'm no hero, Anna. I'm just a woman who got tired of being silenced." "Exactly," she said, her eyes gleaming. "That's why they're listening. So, tell me about this foundation." I laid out the vision, my voice steady with purpose. The Elaine Harper Foundation would be a sanctuary for women like me. Mothers, grandmothers, widows, pushed aside by family, society, or circumstance. It would offer legal aid, counseling, safe housing, and community, a place where women could reclaim their dignity and rewrite their stories. Lily's ideas from Charleston, support groups, workshops, advocacy, were woven into the plan, her youthful fire fueling my resolve. Anna scribbled notes, nodding. "This is big, Margaret. You've got the momentum, the story, the heart. What do you need to make it real?" Beatrice, ever the strategist, spoke up. "Funding, for starters. We have the money from Margaret's house sale, but we'll need more for property, staff, operations. A crowdfunding campaign could work, leveraging the podcast's reach. Lila added softly and a location. Somewhere welcoming, like Savannah. This city feels healing. Evelyn grinned. Plus, we need a lawyer who can handle the paperwork and fend off Margaret's kids when they come sniffing. Anna leaned forward. I know people, crowdfunding experts, nonprofit lawyers, even a realtor here in Savannah who specializes in historic properties. Let me make some calls. Over the next week, the plan took shape with a speed that felt almost miraculous. Anna connected us with a lawyer, Sarah Klein, a fierce advocate for elder rights who'd been following my story. Sarah helped us register the foundation. Her office a cozy chaos of legal books and dog-eared files. You're building something revolutionary, Margaret, she said, drafting bylaws. This could change how we talk about elder abuse. Beatrice launched a GoFundMe, using clips from the podcast and a photo of me in Santorini, the sea behind me, my smile defiant. Lily, who joined us for a weekend, wrote the campaign's copy, her words raw and powerful. My grandmother was betrayed by her family, but she didn't break. She built a new life, and now she's building a home for women like her. Help us give them a voice. Within 48 hours, the campaign raised $100,000, with donations pouring in from women across the country. Their message is a chorus of pain and hope. This happened to my mom. I thought I was alone. Thank you, Margaret. Clara's reaction was swift and venomous. She left a voicemail, her voice a hiss. You're exploiting our family for fame, Mama. Stop this, or I'll sue. Nathan emailed, accusing me of fraud. Sophie, predictably, stayed silent, but I imagined her reading the GoFundMe comments, her guilt a quiet storm. I deleted Clara's message, ignored Nathan's email. Their threats were hollow now, drowned out by the voices of women who needed me. Lily's presence was a lifeline. She spent her school break with us, her poetry notebook always open, her ideas boundless. One evening, as we walked through Forsyth Park, the fountain glowing under the stars, she turned to me. Grandma, what if we made a place where women could tell their stories? Like a library, but for lives? I stopped, her words sparking something deep. A library of lives, I repeated. That's beautiful, Lily. She blushed, tucking a curl behind her ear. I want to help run it. Not just visit, I want to be part of it. My heart swelled, but I tempered it with caution. You're 15, sweetheart. You need to finish school, live your life. I will, she said, her eyes fierce. But this is my life too. You're my family, not Mom. Her words cracked something open in me, a mix of pride and fear. I hugged her, the park's quiet wrapping around us like a promise. We'll figure it out, I whispered. Together. The foundation's first home came faster than we expected. Anna's realtor friend found a property. A 2-story Victorian on a quiet street, its wraparound porch shaded by magnolias, its rooms filled with light. The price was steep, but between the house sale funds and the GoFundMe, we could afford it. We named it Harper House, a nod to my name and the legacy I was building. The day we signed the papers, Evelyn popped a bottle of champagne on the porch, Lila sketched the house's silhouette, and Beatrice calculated renovation costs. Lily, standing beside me, squeezed my hand. This is it, Grandma. This is home. But the past wasn't done clawing at me. A week later, as we toured Harper House, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I answered, expecting a donor or reporter. Instead, Sophie's voice, soft and strained, filled the line. Mama, it's me. I need to talk. My breath caught, the silver rebels freezing around me. Sophie hadn't spoken to me since the day they took me to Seaside Meadows, her silence a betrayal as deep as Clara's lies. What do you want, Sophie? I asked, my voice cold. I saw the podcast, the GoFundMe. Lily told me everything. I didn't know, she stopped, her voice breaking. I didn't know how bad it was. I'm sorry, Mama. Sorry. The word felt like a slap. You watched them pack my life into a suitcase, Sophie. You didn't say a word. I was scared, she whispered. Clara said it was for your safety. I believed her, but I was wrong. I gripped the phone, anger and grief warring in my chest. Evelyn shook her head. mouthing, hang up. But Lily's face flashed in my mind. Her courage, her choice to break free. Maybe Sophie could change too. I need time, Sophie, I said finally. You hurt me. Lily's the only reason I'm even listening. I know, she said, tears audible. I'll do whatever it takes, Mama. For you, for Lily. I ended the call, my hands shaking. The Silver Rebels gathered around, their silence a shield. You okay? Lila asked, her hand on my shoulder. I don't know, I admitted. But I'm not closing the door. Not yet. Harper House opened its doors a month later, a soft launch with a handful of women. Clara, a widow whose son had drained her savings. Rose, a grandmother coerced into a care home. And June, a former teacher whose daughter had cut her off. We offered them rooms, legal consultations with Sarah, and group sessions led by a therapist Anna recommended. I sat with them, listening, their stories echoing my own. Each one strengthened me, a reminder that this was bigger than my pain. Lily returned for the opening, her poetry read aloud to the women, her words a bridge between generations. Sophie sent a letter, handwritten, promising to support Lily's involvement and begging for a chance to make amends. I didn't respond, but I kept it tucked beside Thomas's letters. The foundation was my focus now, its mission my heartbeat. In Savannah, under the oaks, I was building a legacy, not of anger, but of light. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and with every woman who walked through Harper House's doors, I was rewriting the story of what it meant to be free. Winter settled over Savannah like a gentle sigh. The air crisp with the scent of pine and chimney smoke, the oaks in Forsyth Park bare, but unyielding. Harper House glowed with warmth, its porch strung with fairy lights, its rooms alive with the voices of women finding their way back to themselves. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, stood at the heart of it, no longer just a survivor, but a founder, a beacon for those who'd been told their time was up. The Elaine Harper Foundation was more than a dream now. It was a living, breathing force, and I was determined to see it grow. The house was full, its 5 bedrooms home to women whose stories mirrored my own. There was Clara, the widow whose son had left her penniless. Rose, whose family had locked her away to claim her estate. June, the teacher rebuilding her confidence. And now Ellen, a former nurse whose daughters had manipulated her into signing away her savings. Each woman brought a piece of the puzzle, their resilience fueling our mission. We held weekly support groups, legal clinics with Sarah Klein, and workshops where Lila taught sketching. Evelyn shared stories of her wild youth, and Beatrice demystified financial planning. I led storytelling sessions, encouraging the women to write their truths, their words a chorus of defiance. Lily was a constant presence, spending weekends and holidays with us, her poetry a thread weaving us together. She'd started a blog for the foundation, Voices of Harper House, where she posted the women's stories, anonymized but raw. Her words drew thousands, amplifying our reach. Donations poured in, enough to plan a second home in Asheville, and media requests flooded Anna's inbox. I turned down most interviews, wary of becoming a spectacle, but agreed to a local NPR segment, speaking not just for myself, but for every woman in Harper House. Sophie's letter sat unanswered in my desk drawer, its weight a quiet challenge. She'd written again, apologizing, promising to support Lily's work with the foundation, even offering to fund a scholarship in my name. I wasn't ready to forgive, but Lily's faith in her mother's potential for change gnawed at me. She's trying, Grandma, Lily said one evening as we sipped tea on the porch, the stars bright above. She's not Clara or Nathan. She's lost, I think. Lost or not, she hurt us both, I said, my voice softer than I meant. Trust takes time, sweetheart. Lily nodded, her eyes on the horizon. I know, but I want her to see what we're building. Maybe it'll change her. Her words stayed with me, a seed planted in fertile ground. I didn't trust Sophie, but I trusted Lily's heart, and that was enough to keep the door cracked open. The foundation's first major event came in January, a night of stories at Harper House, inspired by Lily's idea for a library of lives. We invited donors, local advocates, and women from nearby shelters, filling the house with candlelight and hope. Each resident shared a piece of her story, some through words, others through art or song. Ellen read a poem about her nursing days, her voice steady despite tears. Rose showed a quilt she'd sewn, each patch a memory of her stolen home. I closed the night, telling my story, not the betrayal, but the rebirth, the women who'd saved me, the granddaughter who'd reminded me to hope. The crowd, 50 strong, packed into our living room, stood, their applause a wave of affirmation. Anna, there with her recorder, whispered, "This is going viral, Margaret. You're not just a foundation. You're a movement." She was right. The event raised $50,000, and Anna's podcast episode about it hit 1 million downloads. Messages flooded our inbox, women seeking help, daughters vowing to protect their mothers, even a few sons confessing their shame. But with visibility came scrutiny. Clara and Nathan escalated their attacks, hiring a lawyer to claim I'd stolen the cottage, accusing me of elder abuse for manipulating public sympathy. Sarah Klein dismantled their case in a single hearing, her closing statement a masterclass in righteous fury. Margaret Harper didn't steal anything. She reclaimed her life from those who tried to bury her. The judge dismissed the suit, but Clara's rage spilled into a public letter, posted on a local Willow Creek forum. "My mother is a liar, exploiting our family for fame. She abandoned us, not the other way around." The post spread, drawing trolls and skeptics, but it also sparked a backlash. Hundreds of women defending me, sharing their own stories of betrayal. The Silver Rebels called it a victory, but it felt hollow. Clara's words cut deeper than I'd expected, a reminder of the mother I'd tried to be, the love I'd poured into her. Lily saw my pain. One night, as we sorted donations in Harper House's attic, she hugged me, her voice fierce. "She's wrong, Grandma. You didn't abandon anyone. You saved yourself, and now you're saving others." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me back to purpose. The next day, I wrote my first public response, posted on Lily's blog. "My children took my home, my dignity, my voice. I took them back, not for revenge, but for every woman who's been told she's done. This is my truth, and I'll keep telling it." The post went viral, shared by thousands, its comments a sea of support. Clara's narrative crumbled, her lies exposed by the light of our truth. Sophie reached out again, this time in person. She arrived unannounced at Harper House, her face pale, her hands clutching a photo album. Evelyn wanted to turn her away, but Lily pleaded, and I agreed to meet her in the garden, the Silver Rebels watching from the porch. "Mama," Sophie began, her voice trembling, "I brought this. It's pictures of us before everything went wrong." I took the album, my fingers brushing its worn cover. Inside were memories. Lily as a baby, Sophie and me baking cookies, Thomas teaching her to fish. My throat tightened. "Why now, Sophie?" "Because I was wrong," she said, tears falling. "I let Clara lead. I stayed quiet, and I lost you. I lost Lily. I want to make it right. I studied her, searching for deceit, but saw only pain. I can't trust you yet," I said. "But for Lily's sake, I'll listen. Show me you mean it, not with words, with actions." She nodded, handing me a check, $10,000 for the foundation. "It's a start," she said. "I'll keep trying, Mama." I didn't hug her, didn't forgive her, but I kept the album, a bridge to a possible future. That night, I told the Silver Rebels, their reactions a mix of skepticism and hope. "She's got a long road," Evelyn said, but Lila smiled. "She's walking it. That's something." Harper House grew, its light spreading. We opened the Asheville home, named Grace Haven, and planned another in Richmond. Lily, now 16, took a leadership role, coordinating volunteers, her poetry a rallying cry. Sophie attended our next event, standing quietly in the back, her presence a tentative step. Clara and Nathan faded, their threats empty, their influence waning. One morning, as I sat on Harper House's porch, coffee in hand, I looked at the women around me. Residents, volunteers, Lily, the Silver Rebels. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. Our stories a fire that wouldn't be quenched. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and this was my legacy, not of pain, but of power, built from the ashes of betrayal and lit by the flame of truth. Spring arrived in Savannah with a riot of color. Azaleas blooming in fiery pinks, wisteria cascading over Harper House's porch, the air sweet with possibility. At 68, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, stood at the heart of a movement that had grown beyond my wildest dreams. The Elaine Harper Foundation was no longer just a refuge. It was a network of hope, with Harper House in Savannah, Grace Haven in Asheville, and a third home, Haven's Light, under construction in Richmond. Women came to us from across the country, their stories of betrayal and resilience weaving a tapestry of strength. I was no longer just a mother betrayed. I was a founder, a voice, a woman who'd turned pain into purpose. Harper House buzzed with life. Our 10 residents, Clara, Rose, June, Ellen, and 6 newcomers, filled the rooms with laughter, tears, and the quiet hum of healing. We'd expanded our programs, adding art therapy led by Lila, financial literacy classes taught by Beatrice, and storytelling workshops where I guided women to reclaim their narratives. Evelyn, ever the spark, started a rebel club, teaching women to stand up to manipulative family members with wit and grit. Lily, now a permanent fixture during school breaks, ran the Foundation's blog and social media, her poetry a beacon for younger generations. Her library of lives, idea had become a physical space, a cozy room in Harper House lined with journals, each one a woman's story, preserved and honored. The Foundation's reach was staggering. Our GoFundMe had raised $500,000, bolstered by grants and corporate sponsors moved by Anna's podcast, now at 2 million downloads. We'd been featured in national magazines, and a documentary filmmaker was pitching a project about our work. But with growth came challenges. Clara and Nathan's legal threats had fizzled, but their public attacks persisted, with Clara posting bitter rants on social media, calling me a grifter and the Foundation a scam. The comments stung, but the outpouring of support, thousands of women sharing their own stories, drowned her out. Sophie, meanwhile, was a quiet presence, attending events, volunteering at Harper House, her actions slowly building a fragile bridge. I hadn't forgiven her, but I saw her trying, and for Lily's sake, I let her stay. One April morning, as I sipped coffee on the porch, Lily burst through the door, her eyes wide. "Grandma, we got it." She waved a letter, cream-colored, embossed with a seal. The National Women's Empowerment Award. They're giving it to the Foundation. I took the letter, my hands trembling. The award recognized organizations that uplifted women's autonomy and dignity, offering a $100,000 grant and a platform at a gala in Washington, D.C. "We honor the Elaine Harper Foundation," it read, "for its transformative work in restoring voice and agency to women silenced by betrayal." The words hit me like a wave, not just the recognition, but the validation. We weren't just helping women, we were changing the narrative. The Silver Rebels gathered, their reactions a mix of joy and mischief. Evelyn raised her coffee mug. "To Margaret, the fiercest damn grandma I know." Lila sketched the letter's seal, her eyes misty. Beatrice, ever practical, started listing gala logistics. Lily hugged me, whispering, "You did this, Grandma. You made a world." "No," I said, my voice thick. "We did." The gala was a month away, giving us time to prepare. Lily took charge, designing a presentation that wove together the stories of Harper House's residents, her poetry narrating their journeys. Sarah Klein, our lawyer, helped us draft a speech, while Anna coached me on public speaking, her advice sharp: "Speak from the heart, Margaret. That's your power." The women of Harper House rallied, sewing dresses, practicing readings, their excitement a living thing. Even Sophie contributed, organizing transportation, her quiet efficiency a step toward redemption. But the past wasn't done testing me. 2 weeks before the gala, I received an email from Clara, her tone no longer angry but cold, calculated. "Mama, I saw the award announcement. You're playing the victim, but we're the ones you hurt. Meet me before the gala, or I'll tell the press the real story." Attached was a photo of my cottage, its whitewashed walls now peeling, the gravel lot overgrown with weeds. The sight twisted my heart, not for the house, but for the mother I'd been, pouring love into children who discarded it. I showed the email to the Silver Rebels over dinner, the dining room warm with the scent of Lila's cornbread. Evelyn snorted. She's bluffing. She's got nothing but lies, and the world's already chosen your truth. Lila touched my hand. She's scared, Margaret. You're shining too bright for her to handle. Beatrice frowned. Don't meet her alone. If you go, we're with you, and Sarah's on speed dial. Lily, sitting beside me, shook her head. Don't let her in, Grandma. She doesn't deserve it. I didn't reply to Clara, but her words lingered, a shadow on my joy. Sophie, hearing about the email, approached me the next day, her eyes downcast. Mama, I know Clara. She's lashing out because she's losing control. I'll talk to her if you want. I studied her, searching for deceit, but saw only sincerity. Do it, I said. But don't expect miracles. Sophie met Clara in Willow Creek, reporting back that Clara was unraveling, her accusations incoherent, her allies dwindling. She's not coming to the gala, Sophie said. She's too afraid of facing you. The gala was a blur of light and sound, crystal chandeliers, black-tie guests, the hum of anticipation in a DC ballroom. I wore a deep green dress, chosen by Lily, its color echoing the sage cardigan I'd worn the day they took me away. The Silver Rebels, Lily, and 5 Harper House residents sat at our table, their faces radiant. Sophie was there too, in the back, her presence a quiet promise. When I took the stage, the room stilled. I spoke of betrayal, of seaside meadows, of Thomas's letters and Lily's courage. I spoke of Harper House, of women rising from ashes, of a world where no one is discarded. This award isn't mine, I said, my voice clear. It's ours. Every woman who refused to be silenced, every ally who lifted us up. The applause was thunderous, but it was the tears in Lily's eyes, the pride in the Silver Rebels' faces, that anchored me. The grant funded 2 more homes in Portland and Santa Fe, and the gala spotlight brought a flood of volunteers and donors. Sophie became a regular at Harper House, her actions, funding a legal clinic, mentoring new residents, earning cautious trust. Clara and Nathan faded, their voices drowned by the foundation's roar. Lily, now 17, announced plans to study nonprofit management, her future tied to our mission. One evening, as I sat on Harper House's porch, the magnolias fragrant, I opened Sophie's photo album, its memories no longer painful, but precious. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and my legacy wasn't just the homes we'd built or the stories we'd told. It was the women who carried our fire forward, the granddaughter who'd chosen me, the daughter who was learning to return. The past was a scar, but the future was a flame, and I was ready to let it burn bright. Summer draped Savannah in a golden haze, the air thick with the hum of cicadas and the scent of blooming gardenias. Harper House stood as a beacon, its porch alive with laughter, its rooms a sanctuary for women who'd found their way to us. At 69, I, Margaret Elaine Harper, was no longer defined by the betrayal that had uprooted me. I was a founder, a grandmother, a woman who'd turned ashes into light. The Elaine Harper Foundation had grown into a network of 5 homes, Savannah, Asheville, Richmond, Portland, and Santa Fe, each a testament to resilience, each named for a woman whose story we carried. But this summer, as I stood on the cusp of a new chapter, I knew the true legacy wasn't in buildings or awards. It was in the lives we'd changed, the fires we'd lit, and the home I'd found within myself. Harper House was thriving, its 15 residents a vibrant community. Clara, now a mentor to newcomers, led gardening workshops, her hands rediscovering the earth. Rose ran a sewing circle, her quilts adorning every bed. June taught literacy classes, her patience a quiet strength. Ellen, the nurse, organized health screenings, her compassion healing more than bodies. New faces, Martha, a former librarian, Sonia, a displaced widow, brought fresh stories, their voices joining the chorus. The Silver Rebels, Evelyn, Lila, and Beatrice, remain my pillars. Evelyn, ever the firebrand, planned community events with a flair that rivaled her youth. Lila's art therapy classes filled the house with color, her sketches a gallery of hope. Beatrice, our financial wizard, ensured our growth was sustainable, her spreadsheets as fierce as her heart. Lily, now 17 and a high school senior, was the foundation's heartbeat. She'd expanded the library of lives, digitizing stories for a global audience, her blog a magnet for donors and advocates. She'd won a National Youth Leadership Award, her speech crediting me as her inspiration. My grandmother taught me that it's never too late to rise. She spent summers at Harper House, her poetry workshops a bridge between generations, her presence a reminder of why I'd fought. Sophie, too, had become a steady presence, her work with the foundation, funding programs, mentoring residents, earning my cautious trust. She'd moved to Savannah, her life separate from Clara and Nathan, her apologies now backed by action. I hadn't fully forgiven her, but I saw her trying, and that was enough for now. The foundation's impact was undeniable. We'd helped over 200 women, offering shelter, legal aid, and a path to independence. Our model, community-driven, story-centered, had inspired similar initiatives in Canada and the UK. Anna's podcast, now a series, featured our residents, its 5 million downloads a testament to our reach. A book deal, co-authored with Lily, was in the works, titled Not Done Yet, The Women of Harper House. It wasn't just my story, it was ours, a declaration that age, betrayal, or loss couldn't extinguish a woman's fire. But the past still whispered. Clara's attacks had faded, her social media rants ignored by all but a few loyalists. Nathan had moved to California, his silence a relief. Yet their absence left a quiet ache, not for who they were now, but for the children I'd loved. One July evening, as I sorted through old photos in Harper House's attic, I found a drawing Lily had made at 5, a stick-figure family, me at the center, smiling. I traced it, tears falling, and realized I'd made peace with their loss. They'd chosen their path, I'd chosen mine. The foundation's first anniversary arrived, a celebration planned for the 4th of July. Harper House's garden was transformed, lanterns hung from oaks, tables laden with Lila's pies and Evelyn's punch, music drifting from a local band. Over 100 guests gathered, residents, donors, volunteers, and women from our other homes. Lily emceed, her red dress echoing the sweater she'd worn in Charleston, her voice confident. "This isn't just a house," she said, gesturing to the crowd. "It's a promise that no woman is ever done, no story ever finished." Each resident spoke, their words a tapestry of courage. I closed the night, standing on the porch, the crowd a sea of faces lit by fireflies. A year ago, I was in a beige room. Thinking my life was over, I began. My children took my home. I found my strength, my voice, and my home, not in a place, but in the women who saved me, the granddaughter who chose me, the future we're building. This is my freedom, my fire, and I'm passing it on. The applause was a wave, but it was Sophie's tearful smile, Lily's proud nod, that grounded me. Afterward, Sophie approached, holding a small box. "Mama, this is for you," she said, her voice soft. Inside was a locket, a twin to the one Thomas gave me, engraved with Elaine. "I found it in an antique shop," she said. "It felt like it belonged to you." I clasped it around my neck, my heart full. "Thank you, Sophie," I said, and for the first time, I hugged her, the embrace tentative but real. The next morning, I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, the locket warm against my skin. Lily joined me, her notebook open, a new poem forming. "What's next, Grandma?" she asked, her eyes bright. I looked out at the garden, where Clara was planting roses, Rose laughing with Martha, June reading to Sonia. "More homes, more stories," I said. "And maybe a trip back to Santorini, just us." She grinned. "Deal." As the sun rose, I felt Thomas's presence, not in pain, but in love, his letters a guidepost to this moment. I was Margaret Elaine Harper, and my home wasn't a cottage in Willow Creek or even Harper House. It was here, in the truth I'd claimed, the women I'd lifted, the legacy I'd built. The past was a scar, the future a flame, and I was ready to burn bright, not just for me, but for every woman who'd ever been told she was done. My story wasn't over, it was eternal, written in the hearts of those who carried it forward, a light that would never fade.